I'm gonna give everyone a moment to come in from the waiting room. All right. As a reminder, please make sure you're muted. Good afternoon. This is a hearing before the Boston Cannabis Board. Today is December 15th, 2021. Today's hearing is being conducted pursuant to certain temporary amendments to the open meeting law. That is what allows us to meet virtually. This hearing is being recorded and will be uploaded to the City of Boston's website. Before I review some procedural matters, I will introduce Chairwoman Kathleen Joyce.
Thanks, Jasmine. Good afternoon. My name is Kathleen Joyce. I'm chair of the Boston Cannabis Board, and today I'm happy to be joined by Commissioner Lisa Holmes, Commissioner Darlene Lombos, Commissioner John Smith, and Commissioner Alejandra St. Gian.
All right, and my name is Jasmine Nguyen, and I am the Boston Cannabis Board Manager. While the public is encouraged to attend, there will be no additional public testimony accepted. I will read each item into the record. After, we'll ask for comments from each of the board members. I will then ask if there's a motion, any questions on the motion, and then is there a vote? Each board member has the ability to grant with conditions, defer, reject without prejudice, which means the applicant can return anytime with the same application at the same location, or reject with prejudice, which means the applicant cannot reapply at the same location for 1 year. The first three items are amendments to already licensed locations. The first item is the applicant is Berkshire Roots. The license premise is 251 to 253 Meridian Street, East Boston. They have a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The amendment is to amend the hours of operations. The current hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., Sunday, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., and the proposed hours are Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. We will start with comments from the board members. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thanks, Jasmine. This was originally an application to change hours and to also add delivery. And the applicant decided to move forward with just the change in hours. And at first glance, I saw this strictly through the lens of adding additional 2 hours and changing them to start later and open up later. But after listening to the testimony and going back and listening to the community meeting, I find it very hard to look at this change of hours without also looking at the change that these hours would have, the impact that these change of hours would have on the neighborhood, especially with delivery coming up next month. They've only been open since July 2020. There really is no on-site parking here, and there is a question as to what the impact of these hours will have on the neighborhood. Those are my comments, and I'll wait before we move on to the motion until I hear from everyone else.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, I think the community feedback in terms of the residents was important. It is a dense residential neighborhood, and I think their concerns around parking and I really took it into consideration. So yeah, I'm going to wait until we vote.
Commissioner Lombos.
I don't have any comments, just that the public comments were concerning and definitely taking that into consideration.
Commissioner St. Gian.
Yeah, likewise, I agree with my fellow commissioners on the shared concerns about the hours change.
Commissioner Holmes.
I concur with my fellow commissioners on this, so we'll just wait for the vote.
Okay, Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
I make a motion to defer the change in hours until we hear next month on the delivery, and I believe they'll be meeting with the community, or they'll be getting more community input by then. So that's a motion to defer the extended hours until we hear about the delivery.
Okay, so that's deferred to our next hearing, which is January 12th. Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Next, we have Ascend. The applicant is Ascend Mass LLC. The license premise is 268 to 274 French Street, West End. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The request is to amend the license to allow for delivery of recreational cannabis through a licensed marijuana courier. Chairwoman Joyce, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I had a lot of questions about this, but the applicant did answer them and there was a lot of support. My questions had to do with whether or not they were going to try to take over that loading zone for themselves all day. And I feel confident that they have a good plan in place.
Commissioner Smith?
Same thing about the loading zone. I'm worried about that. But yeah, I'm comfortable with it.
Commissioner Lombos?
Yeah, I thought that there was a good plan in place. I felt like they had good support. So those are my comments.
Commissioner Sangian?
Nothing to add. I agree with the previous comments.
Commissioner Holmes?
Yeah, I have nothing to add. I think they, I thought they were very conscientious about the other businesses and did appear to have a really good plan. So we'll just have to see how it goes out.
Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve this amendment to the license to allow for delivery.
Is there a second? All in favor?
Second,
No, all in favor? And none opposed. Next, we have the applicant Evoke Inc. The license premise is 1102 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The request is to change the beneficial interest and a change to the ultimate beneficial interest to the, I read that completely wrong. Change of beneficial interest and a change of the ultimate beneficial interest holder entity name from Evoke Holdings LLC to Injaga Global LLC. No changes to operational control. Chairwoman Joyce.
I have no questions or comments.
Commissioner Smith.
Yeah, none on this one.
Commissioner Lagos.
none, thanks.
Commissioner Sangian.
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Holmes.
Nope, all set.
Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
I make a motion to grant these changes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And none opposed. Perfect. Next, we will move to our new license applications. The first one is Rooted in LLC. The proposed license premise is 13 to 15 West Street, Chinatown. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., 7 days a week. This is an equity applicant. Their ISD filing was their initial application was September 10th, 2020. The inspectional services filing was August 20th, 2021. The community meeting took place on August 19th, 2021. And there is a buffer zone conflict with this applicant. Chairwoman Joyce, any comments?
Yes, I'd like to first start off by saying this is an equity applicant, and I am aware of that as I go through the evaluation criteria that is before us. I want to jump into location. They scored very low for me on location. They originally were not able to get on our agenda because of the previous school buffer zone language from the CCC, which it was subsequently changed, and that allowed them to make it onto the agenda last week because of 12 feet. They are 512 feet from a school. They are in close proximity to a homeless shelter, but not just close proximity. They are basically next door. So I'm going through the location. They're also just outside the buffer zone for the State Street location we approved, they are within the buffer zone for Raster Roots and within the buffer zone for Patriot Care. So I think I got that straight. They're within the buffer zone for 2 locations, just outside the buffer zone for 1, which we've already approved. They are next door to a homeless shelter, and they are 512 feet next to a high school that caters to recovery, children in recovery. The positives as far as their location is it is a residential and commercially diverse area. However, most of those residents are students. And there is no on-site parking, but they have a lot of access to public transportation. This reminds me a lot of Sanctuary in Chinatown. Technically, this is also Chinatown. That was a neighborhood that we said had transitioned in recent years from an undesirable neighborhood to one that was really community focused. And there was written testimony that these neighbors felt the same. I like the applicants. I like their diversity inclusion plan. I like their employment plan. I do not like this location. The community feedback, not only was there a lot of opposition, the quality of the opposition was persuasive to me. There was some support, and because there was some support from Counselor at Large, former Counselor at Large Anissa Sabi George, and former Mayor Janey, they did get some points in that category for me. And their safety and security plan was impressive. If it was just one thing of piercing the buffer zone because of a similar retail establishment, I think they meet all the criteria with their community space and offering a different experience. But I really can't get past the location and the impacts of that. Not only did they score 0 on 2C, I would have scored them -0.
Commissioner Smith, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I would say they scored pretty high on most of it for me, except for the location. But I was also thinking that I didn't see anybody come from the school itself to oppose them, the high school. And then I saw they submitted more letters of support. I also think, it is close to downtown. We have a lot of different commercial businesses there. I think most people are aware that there's not a lot of parking, there's a lot of public transit. So I don't think it creates that kind of problem. And I think because we have to cite these businesses in different parts of the city, we're going to come across these conflicts. So I am actually comfortable with this location and their presentation.
Commissioner Lombos?
Sorry. Yeah, this one's such a tough one. Honestly, it is scored really high on the DEI and employment and safety. And again, the location, this is such a tough one. And this is my first meeting with this kind of newish scorecard where things are really delineated out by like the 5 points here and 5, A, B, C, D, E. So while I am appreciating that, it's just really hard. I really like the plan. I like the pop-ups. I like the importance of having an equity applicant in downtown and the importance of having a foothold there for people of color owned businesses. So at the end of the day, my scores were very low on location and community feedback and public support, but very high on these other things. And so I also am not comfortable. I wouldn't say that. I would say that if there was some way, I really like the applicants too. They seem to want to work with community partners. And if there was some way that we say that they just have to continue to do that, I feel like they've been open to that as well. So I'm comfortable with moving forward as well.
Commissioner Sanguian?
Thank you. I think today we're going to come up across a couple of these instances with, strong opposition and what would seem like, less than ideal location. And so, I do recognize that we have to this then goes before the zoning board, and so they'll be hearing the same thing. And there have been times in the past where we've approved and the zoning board has denied. That being said, I have to base my decision on, you know, what I feel is correct, and I too believe that's a location that, you know, even though been hit by COVID and there's not as much foot traffic that there is going to be significant more in the years to come, and it is a location, just the whole area, a place that can have multiple establishments without having a huge community impact. I appreciate that it is close to Chinatown, and I guess technically Chinatown. I know that area very, very well. Worked down there for many years, and so I with a strong security plan that they have, I don't see an issue with, you know, with having youth or people in recovery. The legal marijuana establishments are just, I think there's a perception of what they are, and then a reality of really what they are in terms of their level of security, their clientele, their, you know, have been studies shown that have actually improved crime in some places, just given all the level of security. So I do appreciate the schools and coming out and giving testimony against this, but I feel confident in particularly in this operator, that they will be able, as Commissioner Lambos has indicated, to continue to work and with the community and just maintain a super high level of diligence and for making sure that it doesn't get into the wrong hands. So I too am comfortable with this location.
Commissioner Holmes?
This is tough, but I think the sticking point for me is that it's exactly next door to Bridge Over Troubled Waters. And having worked with that shelter and knowing the population that's there and how hard they work with the clients that they get there, I am extremely uncomfortable with this being next door there. I don't have any doubt that the operators will do the best that they can and that they're good business, but I just think this is the worst location that they could have chosen to be near that population of young people who are there to try to, you know, uplift their lives after falling into disrepair and disregard, to just have that temptation, and not that they'll even be able to get in there, because I have no doubt that that's going to happen, or that will happen. I mean, I don't think they would allow that to happen. I just think that the location for me is what makes me uncomfortable. Everything else about this, I love their model. I love it. But being next door to that shelter does not work for me.
Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
Yes. I make a motion to reject this application with prejudice, and that would mean they could not come back to this location for a year. I really just have a problem with this location.
Is there a second? All in favor? Only two. So is there another motion? Motion doesn't carry. Anyone else want to give another motion? Someone has to give a motion.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I can give a motion. I'm just trying to, I really appreciate what Commissioner Lambos had said in terms of just making sure that there is this constant feedback and input from the community. So I make a motion to approve this application on the condition of regular meetings with community stakeholders.
So approve with the condition, like yearly, monthly?
Oh,
Monthly.
monthly, yeah.
Monthly.
I think it's crucial enough that monthly is doable.
All right, so you want to approve, the motion is to approve with the condition that they have monthly meetings with stakeholders? Stakeholders. Is there a
Can
second? Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I ask a question about that? Or
Mhm.
just, I guess, I do feel uncomfortable that two commissioners that I very much value and respect their opinion feel very strongly against this location. Would the monthly check-ins be sufficient, or is there anything that you two could think of that would alleviate not alleviate all the concern, but would help with that? Or is it just,
I feel very strongly, and that's why I asked the applicant, why this location, like right next to a homeless
Right
shelter?
next door. If it was an adult homeless shelter, I might not have the same concerns, but we've got young adults. We've got kids from 12 to 21 there. And some of them have come from some really tough circumstances. They're very vulnerable. And I don't know. I mean, my fears could be groundless, but I just think I agree with the chairperson. Of all the places you pick, you're next to a youth shelter. And I mean, I get that there's not a lot of places that people can go and they can afford, but I mean, this has got to me, it's just like the worst place you could have chosen.
I mean, this board said no to an applicant that was next to some elderly homes in Chinatown.
Yeah.
Right? This is a homeless shelter for youth that they
Yeah.
provide education services. And I just really, I feel as if there's got to be another location. I'm not saying nothing else in this neighborhood.
yeah, I have a hard time too, just because it's hard for me to compare all the locations. I don't have them all in my head, and I do remember that, Chairwoman Joyce. And so I guess
Can I just respond to that just real quickly? I think you're Chairwoman, you're referring to Sanctuary. Is that correct? This Chinatown, yeah. I mean, that was very much in the heart of Chinatown, and what I remember is significant community-based opposition. And I know that there were definitely correspondences. I didn't feel that there was as much, and I feel more. And I'm not arguing, I'm just comparing. I feel more confident in this operator than I did in that one. It didn't, if I remember correctly, didn't seem like they did their due diligence to actually work with the community.
And that's my point. I have no problem with the operator. It's literally the physical address.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the operators.
Yeah.
And I love their whole plan. I love the pop-up shop. I love everything about it except the location. That's my only issue with this, is that location. I don't even really have a problem with the 512 feet from the school. It's just the fact that it's directly next door to this shelter.
yeah, unfortunately,
I think we all have location issues in that sense. I mean, I did consider that as well. I know everybody said we educate it, but still in my mind, I'm thinking, I didn't hear the school itself say anything. So that was sort of interesting to me.
But no, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, their director did come on and give opposition. The school might not have, but Bridge Over Troubled Waters did.
Right.
Yeah.
And everybody mentioned the school, but the school didn't come on.
But I don't have a problem with the school. School's 512 feet away. I mean, I can live with that. It's not my ideal location, but I can live with that.
But
I can live with the 512 feet.
But it's the homeless shelter.
It's not just homeless. The kids that utilize Bridge Over Troubled Waters come there looking for help. They're runaways. Some of them have addiction problems. They're homeless. And it's just, like I said, my fears could be unfounded, but just knowing the population that that establishment deals with on a daily basis makes me very uncomfortable having this next door.
And given this security plan, you don't think there's a way for them to mitigate that?
It's not that, it's not, no, I do think that the security could probably do a great job. The problem is that I think Bridge Over Troubled Waters does house young adults up to 21. So the 21-year-olds are old enough and legally can go and utilize the establishment. But now what does that do for the rest of the population in there? I mean, it's just a whole lot of other things that came in my mind about it being there and just knowing the population that they serve. Like I said, if it was a block down the street, I'd be all right. Honestly, if it was like on the next block or 2 blocks, I would be fine. Right next door is a problem for me.
Would anyone like to give another motion?
Is it possible to make a motion to table this and further discuss it? Is that a possibility?
Or reject without the prejudice?
Well, yeah, if we could reject without prejudice and they can find another location, that's, okay, maybe that's the motion you should make then, Commissioner Smith, because I could see that happening.
Yeah, so
Reject without prejudice, doesn't that mean they can't come back to this location? We're talking about this location.
Right.
Oh,
They-
I thought if we did reject with prejudice, they can't come back.
To this
that
location.
means they can't reapply for a year at this location.
And so
Right.
you want to make a motion to reject without prejudice so that we can reconsider this location?
Right, and they can have more time to read.
And they could, yeah, maybe we can have more discussion, and is that something we can do?
Because all of the concerns are valid with the, Bridge Over Troubled and all that. So I'm thinking, but is there a way for them to have time to meet more with the community, but even if they can find another location close to downtown? So is there a way to kind of push that off a little bit?
Well, that's the issue. If they find another location, they have to file a new application.
A new application.
They are an equity applicant, so that would allow them to jump to the top of they wouldn't have to go to the very back of the queue.
But reject without prejudice, they're able to come back.
Say again, Jasmine?
Reject without prejudice, they're able to come back the same location if they choose to.
Under
Reject
any
without prejudice.
circumstances, a new location is a new application.
It's a new application, yes.
Okay.
Lisa, I'm sorry, Commissioner Holmes, are you suggesting potentially a deferment until they can address our concerns about the homeless shelter?
Maybe that's what I should have said, Commissioner Lombos. Yeah, I mean, I feel we need to talk about this a little bit. We need a little bit more information. We really need to, because we're all on a different, everybody has their concerns, and I just think if whatever we vote on here, I mean, I don't know, yeah. Either reject, then they have to go find another location, which would be optimal for me, or we just defer it until we can get some more information, or maybe talk a little more to the abutters or something.
So there's already a motion, right, that Commissioner Joyce made?
It got rejected.
Yeah, that motion is
That one
carried.
got rejected, but Commissioner Lombos just made one to defer, I think, right?
Did you, so what is the motion?
Commissioner
Commissioner
Alejandro
Sanguin
Sanguin
made a
made one,
motion.
Oh,
and we had
okay.
questions on it.
I just don't see how any of the concerns about the location are gonna be remedied.
Yeah.
Even with the I don't see I feel like I'm making a motion in favor, and I'm fully aware of all of the issues and concerns. I don't think there's anything that's going to be brought to me to change my mind, and on the very same way, I don't think that there's anything that's going to be brought before Commissioners Joyce and Holmes that's going to I can't, I'm fine with deferment. I feel like it's really not in the, I don't see us getting past it. And, if anything, if it's, rejected is rejected, if it's approved, it's still gonna have to go to the zoning board.
To the zoning board.
It's just gonna be a very high level of scrutiny. And again, I think they're gonna have a hard time in front of the zoning board. That being said, I'm not on the zoning board, so that's my decision has to be made based on my role. And in my role, I'm comfortable. So I'm gonna stand with my motion and probably abstain if there's a deferment.
Okay.
I have a
So-
question about the motion, though. You said meetings with stakeholders. Who are those stakeholders? It's very vague.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it would have to, and it would have to be open to any of the abutters or any of the, I maybe set an area. I'm thinking of the schools, and not the schools, well, it can include the high school, but I meant the universities, sorry, issues of the universities.
Bridge over troubled
Troubled waters. The bookshop had a few concerns about the pop-ups and so forth.
So if there's a motion from Commissioner St. Gillian, do we just vote on that?
Yeah, I just want to be clear on, just so it's on the record, what exactly the motion is and what are we voting. So what is the exact motion they're proposing, Commissioner?
And then if it doesn't pass, then what's the next?
We have to.
We need a motion.
We
need a
keep making
motion.
motions.
We need a motion and we need a vote. Because it's a buffer zone, if you're looking to grant, it would have to be grant conditionally that they get past the buffer zone.
Right. So
So what's your motion?
okay. You want the two conditions? So I motion.
So you
to
want
grant
to.
conditionally on buffer zone and monthly meetings with community stakeholder. I hear you that it's a little vague. I can, with universities, businesses, and nonprofits, which would include schools in.
So all of them in the area, or the direct businesses and like 300 feet, that's usually what we are.
Sure, 300 feet is fine.
All right, so the motion is, just so we're clear, the motion is to approve conditionally. The applicant would have to get a variance from zoning, and with monthly meetings with universities, businesses, and nonprofits within 300 feet.
Mhm.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Right.
So that's only two, so. That motion doesn't, Darlene, did you?
Yeah, I'm gonna make a different motion.
Oh,
Okay,
I'm
all right.
sorry. I'm
All right.
sorry. I really do
Go ahead,
respect
Commissioner.
all the commissioners, and we haven't had a chance to talk about this. And based on my scores, it's true that based on my scores, I would have voted to approve. And I do respect John and Alejandra. All of you. But there's only 5 of us. So there's only 5 of us. So, and I do have a lot of respect for the owner, which I know you all do too. It seems like they have a good track record. So I feel like we should be able to work this out and feel comfortable about moving forward and not have a split vote. And I would like to defer. I'd like to make a motion to defer to be able to have the owner work with us on some sort of, I know this is vague, but some sort of agreement that would make us feel more comfortable with specifically the homeless shelter. I'm hearing specifically the homeless shelter. Now there were other people in opposition, and we don't want to disregard that as well. But I think the concern from the commissioners in location is the homeless shelter. And I think you're right, Commissioner Zengian, that we're not going to get past it. I mean, we're not going to get past the problems, but to Commissioner Holmes' point, maybe these concerns are unfounded. Maybe a monthly some sort of agreement could get us to a different place. So I'm just wanting to see if we can get to a place where all five of us, like we always do, are kind of standing, together. I like us to be able to deliberate and see each other's point of views, because I have so much respect of your perspectives. And I do feel a lot of confidence and respect in both the homeless shelter and the owner to be able to, we should be able to work this out, y'all. So let's figure this out. That's my motion is, let's figure this out. Defer until we figure it out.
All right, so the motion is to defer, to give the owner time to work with an agreement with Bridge Over Troubled Water.
Specifically.
So do we give them 2 to 3 months?
That was my next question. Are we deferring?
That's a good question.
They'll probably contact us tomorrow and say, can we get on the January?
Yeah.
No,
So Commissioner Joyce, yeah.
Would it be in the holidays? I think we should defer it at least until February. Because nobody's gonna get anything done this month.
No.
And they're gonna have to work on it before our meeting for next month. So at least give them January to work on it. And then we can revisit it. They can supplement us with information, and we can revisit it at the earliest on the February agenda. I think January is too soon.
And are we looking for Bridge Over Troubled Water sign off?
I agree with Commissioner Lombos. We just really need to have a little bit more discussion, maybe further with Bridge Over Troubled Waters, with the owner, and just supplement us with some more information on how we can make this work.
So, and we would give them an opportunity to present again in February?
Is that what they do when they come back?
Or do you just want supplemental material and then we pick up our discussion?
No, I think I need to hear from both parties.
Okay.
And it doesn't have to be February, right? It's just there can't be any earlier.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have to be February. We can defer it until they're both ready, but I mean, no earlier than February. I think January is too soon.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so.
And I think it has to be specific around what would they do to mitigate, the impact to Bridge Over Troubled Waters.
Right.
And they need to sort of figure that out. As
Right.
Commissioner Lombo said, figure that out. Like figure out what that actually looks like, and be clear about it. And they have to agree that that will work.
Any other comments?
Ooh, this deliberation gave me a headache.
Just started.
Okay, so the new motion is to defer, to allow the owner to work out an agreement with Bridge Over Troubled Water. And the earliest they will be able to get on our agenda is February. They'll have the opportunity to come back to present. We'll hear from both sides and move that way. That is the motion. That's the motion. Is there a second?
I second.
All in favor? Can I see hands? Okay, everybody, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, perfect.
Arlene, you're happy now?
I like consensus, but I also am not interested in rejecting this owner and want to figure out something. So thank you. Thank you.
All right, next matter. The applicant is Apotheca Inc. The proposed license premise is 54A High Park Avenue, Jamaica Plain. The license type is a co-located medical and recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week. This is a non-equity applicant. The initial application was filed September 23rd, 2020. The filing with inspectional services was January 21st, 2021, and the community meeting was held on July 2nd, 2021. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you, Jasmine. They scored very high for me. This is an experienced operator. They've been operating in the medical world, cannabis world since I think 2020. I could be wrong. In my notes, and there's no buffer zone. I think it's a strong application.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. Strong application. Yeah, they scored high as well. I'm comfortable with it.
Commissioner Lombos?
Comfortable, good, strong.
Commissioner St. Gian?
Nothing further. I agree with my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner Holmes?
We agree. This was a great one. Yay.
Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
I make a motion to grant this application license.
Is there a second? All in favor? None opposed. Motion carries. All right. Next, we have the applicant is Zip Run Inc. The proposed license premise is 1170 William T. Morrissey Boulevard, Dorchester. The license type is a co-located marijuana courier and delivery operator license. The proposed hours of operation are 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. This is an equity applicant. The initial application was filed on June 2nd, 2021. The date of filing with Inspectional Services was July 30th, 2021, and the community meeting was held on September 27th. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thanks, Jasmine. This was a very strong application. We actually heard a very similar application from the same applicant back in April for just the courier, and now that delivery, is that what it's called, Jasmine?
Delivery operator.
Delivery operator is allowed. It's a similar concept. He will be storing the product in a vault at the location, but I see no issues with this application. Very strong application.
Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Jasmine. No, I don't see any issues with this application.
Commissioner Lombos.
Thank you, nope, all strong, good.
Commissioner St. Gian.
No issues.
Commissioner Holmes.
Nope, strong application, so no issues.
Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve this applicant's application.
Is there a second?
Second,
All in favor?
Oops.
And none opposed. Next, we have Natural Oasis LLC. The proposed license premise is 345A to 359 Washington Street, Brighton. They applied for a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours are Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 10 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant. The initial application was filed September 9th, 2021. Date of Inspectional Services filing was November 1st, 2020, and the date of the community meeting was February 25th, 2021. There is a buffer zone conflict. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thanks, Jasmine. I just want to put on the record, we had been going through our files because it had been mentioned in the hearing that this location had been rejected by the community before, but we never received an application. We received an application that was later withdrawn for a different operator at this location.
Okay.
So that was confusing. That was a little confusing because we also had one across the street. Again, scores very high for me in diversity and inclusion in their employment plan and their safety and security plan. When it comes down to location, they do have a buffer zone conflict. They are, I think, 0.3, it doesn't even matter, but there's a buffer zone issue with another dispensary that this board has approved. It is in litigation, but this board has approved a license at a location within the buffer zone. It's a very dense neighborhood, which I think sometimes can go to support multiple licenses within the area. However, this density, I think there's a balancing. This density is what's causing the congestion. We heard lots of testimony about the one-way street. There's no parking. It's difficult to begin with, and they anticipate this making it worse. There are lots of residents that reached out about it, very concerned about its distance to multiple schools in the area. that walk. I think we counted 4 or 5. And that while there is access to public transportation, I believe, or we've been told that a MBTA bus that frequently drops off Boston Public Schools stops right in front of their location. It isn't necessarily a Boston Public School bus, but it is as we all know, a lot of Boston Public School students take MBTA transportation, and there is no on-site parking. So they scored very low for me on location, very low for me on community feedback and public support. The opposition was detailed and persuasive, and the support was form letters from local businesses, which I know is common, but I was really persuaded by the community support, community opposition, and the details that they went into, and the concerns of the parents and the concerns of the neighbors.
Commissioner Smith?
Thank you. I concur with Commissioner Joyce on this.
Commissioner Lombos?
Yeah, I agree. And I would actually say the truth is they scored low for me in agreement with Commissioner Joyce on location and community feedback and public support. They were okay on DEI and employment plan, actually. So I feel like my overall scores were not as, it wasn't as either or, stark in contrast. And obviously because, the public opposition was very detailed. I agree with Commissioner Joyce. I was very swayed by that as well. And they did score low overall, just overall low. So that's my comments so far.
Commissioner Sanguian?
No, not much more to add. I think, the significant information on how the impact on parking and traffic. And I know that there are just going to be neighborhoods that's going to happen all the time, but I do agree that there were other, they also didn't score that high for me on DEI either. And yeah, so in agreement.
Commissioner Holmes?
Everybody said it, no more needs to be added.
Okay. Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to reject with prejudice.
Is there a second? All in favor? And none opposed. So this is rejected with prejudice, which means the applicant cannot reapply at the same location for a year. Right. Next, we have Green Stratus Corp. The proposed license premise is 558 to 560 Dorchester Ave, South Boston. This is they're applying for a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours of operation are Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Sunday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. This is a non-equity applicant. The date of initial filing was August 11th, 2020. The date of filing with inspection service was September 2nd, 2020. And the date of community meeting was February 22nd, 2021 and October 14th, 2021. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you. Just going over my notes. From what I can tell, this is 0.3 miles from the Gavin House, which is another establishment that caters to people in recovery. So that goes towards the location. They scored low as far as their distance from treatment centers, access to public transportation, they scored high, no on-site parking. So it was a balance there. They scored low for me on location. They scored low for me on community feedback and public support. And I'm constantly looking at this through the lens of what the impacts will be on the community.
Commissioner Smith.
Same, and I think about this public health issue we have in mass and class, which can spill over, can create a spillover to what's in that terms of that bus station. So very much the same as Commissioner Joyce.
Commissioner Lombos.
Yeah, this one did score a little bit higher for me on DEI and employment, but also low on location and community feedback and was okay on security, just given some of the testimony and how the security plan wasn't I thought, as tight. But I should ask Commissioner Holmes on that one. I didn't think it was tight, so maybe she probably doesn't think it's tight. So I do feel like, yeah, those are my comments. Very low on location, community feedback, and so on security. And then still appreciated the even though it's not a non-equity applicant, had very high marks on DEI and employment.
Commissioner Sangian?
Thank you. Yeah, I really struggled with this one a lot. I thought that the presentation was good, and I thought that the operator, I had very was impressed definitely by her, and also defer to Commissioner Holmes on security. I know there was a bunch of pushback on that. I did hear the concerns of the neighborhood. I do just want to reiterate, I think there is a sort of a concept or misconception of these shops and sort of how, their presence in neighborhoods, and sometimes they can be very present in the neighborhood, and sometimes it can be set up in a way that is much less so. And yes, the location close to Mass and Cass, and what the community is dealing with there in terms of that, epidemic. And I heard loud and clear that none of the electeds were supportive. So, but I do think that if there was a greater understanding of kind of how a legal marijuana shop impacts a neighborhood in terms of safety and security, and with a stronger security plan, how it can actually be a benefit to an area that is struggling. But that being said, I don't know that there's time, that is not on the onus of the community to do that, research. It's the onus of the proposed operator to be able to educate the community on that. And it didn't seem that there was enough of that correspondence between the operator and the community. But I do, and also want to point out that there are recovery places. Some are well known, like a Gavin House or Bridge Over Troubled Waters, and some are not. Their recovery takes place in office buildings. It takes place in a lot of places that we're not even aware. So sort of distance to those that are facing recovery, I think it's a little difficult to measure if it's not a well-known place. So I think that'll come up a lot. And if there was a ton of time, if I thought the community would be open to hearing more from the operator and learning more about the presence, the impact, community impact on neighborhoods of legal pot shops, I think there could be a different outcome here. But again, I don't see that. I don't see that happening, and I don't see it sort of meeting a stronger threshold that it would need to hold for a buffer zone conflict. Yeah. So that's it.
Commissioner Holmes?
I like everything about this except the location. If they could propose this 2 years down the road after we get a grip on Mass and Cass and everything that's going on right now with the public health, I just think right now at this time, that location is not a good spot. It's just not a good spot now with the crisis that we're in that area. That's other than that, the security plan is legally aesthetic. It says everything that the CCC wants. So, I mean, the additional, I didn't get to read through it all because it was very extensive, but I did grasp some of it. And Cetronic seems to have everything, all the I's dotted and T's crossed. But right now, that area, Andrews Square, with this continuing public health crisis we have, is just not, now is not the time for them to open that there until we can get a grip on that.
Thank you. Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
Yes, I'm just thinking about it, taking into consideration what I've heard from the other commissioners, especially what you just wrapped up nicely for us, Commissioner Holmes. I think I would make a motion to reject without prejudice, so they could come back at a different time if some of the circumstances changed.
Reject without prejudice. Is there a second?
I second that.
All in favor? And none opposed. So the applicant is rejected without prejudice, meaning they can come back to the board. Old and new business, we have Team Green LLC. The proposed license premise is 1441 Tremont Street, Mission Hill. The license type is a recreational cannabis dispensary license. The proposed hours of operation are Sunday through Thursday, 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. This is an equity applicant. The applicant initially filed on December 22nd, 2020. They filed with Inspectional Services February 5th, 2021, and the community meeting was June 24th, 2021, and there was a buffer zone conflict. Chairwoman Joyce.
Thank you, Jasmine. This is an applicant we had heard previously and asked the applicant to come back with supplemental material. And here's a neighborhood in Mission Hill where we've recently granted a license. I think this place is 0.3. It's 0.3 of a mile from Racy's, but it's a different neighborhood. And it's distinct for me, like Mission Hill is different than Chinatown and Downtown Crossing. It's a real neighborhood, and I think the applicant made a good case for how this neighborhood could sustain another establishment this close. It was a tough one, but I think they made a compelling argument, and I was glad they took the extra time to come back.
Commissioner Smith.
Thanks, Jasmine. I actually missed that presentation, so
That's right.
we'll pass on it.
Okay. And Commissioner Lombos was not present at the original hearing, so she's not going to vote on this matter. Commissioner Sangian.
Yeah, I agree with my fellow commissioner. Mission Hills happens to be a neighborhood that I know extremely well, having been born and raised there. And so I was initially, comfortable with the location, knowing just the difference in those, even though a short distance, that they're very different neighborhoods that would they would have sufficient customers to not have too much of an overflow or impact on the community. I also appreciate the applicant's history in entertainment and so forth. So really just strong security history. And so, yeah, so I am very comfortable with opening.
Commissioner Holmes.
No more to add. I'm very familiar with the locations, and even though they seem close on paper, when you're really talking about the Mission Hill neighborhood, they are a little bit of a space apart, and they might even draw two different sets of clientele, because this one is right at the MBTA station and the other one is a little further up down the side street. So they really are going to attract two different types of clientele. And I do think the neighborhood is populated enough during the day with businesses and residences that the neighborhood could sustain both of these establishments here. So I'm good with it.
Okay. Chairwoman Joyce, is there a motion?
Thanks, Jasmine. Because there's a buffer zone, my motion is to grant conditionally upon resolution of the buffer zone conflict by the ZBA.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So it's granted conditionally pending the buffer zone variance and none opposed. All right, so those are all the matters before the Cannabis Board today. Our next transactional hearing will take place on January 12th, 2022 at 1 p.m. Happy holidays and see you all in the new year.
Merry Christmas.
Happy holidays.
Merry
Thank you.
Christmas. Thanks.